First item is the adoption of the second alternative there, waiving the 48-hour notice period in order to add an item to the agenda. And the item concerns the land dedication ceremony that took place today. Yes. Could I have a motion to move?
So moved.
An amended agenda, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Seconder? Donna? Yeah. I beg your pardon. Trustee Gamble. Call the question on the amended agenda. All those in favor? Thank you. And then the items on the consent agenda. 2 sets of minutes, March 11, April 1. Correspondence from the Minister of Transportation with regard to the ferry timetable. Correspondence 2. The Minister of Education regarding Open Student. And the report from the Civic Governance Conference attended by Trustee McDonald.
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Trustee Caden, seconder.
I'm just wondering about the open student. Is there any discussion of it elsewhere in the agenda at all?
We can move it to the agenda if you wish to.
I'd be interested in an update and follow up to that.
She would.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Jen. No, that's okay. It's a good call.
Can I have a seconder for the motion to accept the consent agenda then, as modified? Second. Okay. All those in favor? Thank you. The in-camera meeting considered some property matters. And we have a delegation, or a presentation from the Cumberland Learning Campus by the co-principals.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I invite Dave Merritt and Katie Doran. They are the co-principals currently at what we know as the Cumberland Elementary. Absent today is Mr. Phil Mond, who is retiring from Cumberland Junior, but these two people who are presenting today will be the administrative team for the newly created K-9 Learning Campus in Cumberland. So I'll ask them to join us and make their presentation, please.
Lots of exciting stuff happening in Cumberland right now. We're taking the opportunity as we combine K-9 campus to really scaffold and get to work with these kids for 10 years and really get to do something unique for them moving forward. And as we kind of move the physical facility around what we're doing, take that opportunity to change up a little bit what we're doing educationally with the kids. Move some of our activities towards 21st century learning, giving kids doing stuff, presenting authentic products, and making some of that stuff happen in the process of the and it's great timing with all the curriculum competency stuff coming out right now. A lot of what we're trying to design with our partner groups fits right in with all those personal, social, and communication competencies. And because we have this structure of K-9, we get to really set this real solid foundation in those early years. That K-5 area where we really can focus on that numeracy, that literacy, and those skills, those competencies that kids need to be able to think a little bit more outside the box, control their own learning, direct their own learning. And by the time they get to grade 6, 7, 8, 9, we can really jump in there and do some exciting stuff where kids can follow their passions, do some stuff around inquiry learning, and really dig deep into what they're doing. I love this quote. One of the, obviously we're doing a lot of research as we go through all this. One of the guys I look to quite a bit is a guy named Tony Wagner, and he talks about it's no longer about knowing more than the person next to you. It doesn't matter what you know anymore, it's what can you do with what you know. So it's now, how do we shift this for kids? Make it so they can get to the workplace and apply that knowledge, not just be able to recall it. And as we do that, we're fitting in with the achievement contract quite nicely, stuff around personalized learning as we try to redesign what some reporting to parents could look like with those curriculum competencies and getting into really that sense of belonging. Cumberland is a unique community. It's a really cool community that's real tight, ties with all sorts of different partner groups, and it's got a real heritage behind it too. So digging deep into that and helping it kind of evolve and move forward as it goes. And it's got a real changing dynamic of the community and a real diversity that we really want to celebrate and help these kids move forward with. Another quote that I love, futuristic, with Alvin Toffler. As we do this, we want the kids to think for themselves, learn for themselves, right? The illiterate are going to be not those who can't read and write, but can't learn, unlearn, relearn. Think for themselves, direct their own learning, not just repeat. They're not going to be working in the same jobs. Things are going to change so rapidly that they need to be able to evolve with it. Like I said, kind of great, unique community. We've got our school communities that we work within, the Cumberland Elementary School, the Royston Elementary, and the feeder school, and Cumberland Junior School. We have a really strong community school society, which really adds to the programming at our school, after school programming, as well as school lunches and numerous other things around that. So good relationships with the Community Forest Society, the Cumberland Museum. We're working on forming some more partnerships both with the village and with preschool in the village to try to make this more of a one-stop shop, a place to come for learning in Cumberland. So as we're doing this, we were looking for community response and input. We put those ideas out there. And the good news is it's been overwhelmingly positive what we've heard back. Obviously, people have concerns and legitimate concerns, as they should, and they've been asking lots of questions, and I'd be worried if they weren't, and a lot of them are the right questions. But they're really positive because one of the things this is doing is keeping kids in Cumberland. Okay? We have a junior school with only about 150 kids right now. To be able to keep those kids at home longer before they have to ship them across town, parents are happy as can be about that. So we've been trying to work with our different close partner groups to kind of build something as we go forward. And not just for next year, but as the future as we go down. Because we'll be baby steps next year, and we'll jump in more and more as the years go. We've been able to get the PACs together. February 3rd, they got together for the first time at a joint PAC meeting. They've got to the point now where they are actually meeting as one PAC as they plan for next year. They're working on some goal setting, really defining what they think their role is and the goals that they want to get to. And we're kind of trying to help push some of those to be more educational-based goals and not just the fundraising type goal, which is a great, fantastic addition to our school, but we want parents to have a little bit more input. And we want to use that school planning council and rebuild and create that for the two schools and merging into one to really have some meat and help guide as we move forward into the next couple of years. We've got the staffs together, both staffs, a little difficult right now. We have different ending times. They're up for about 45 minutes. So we've done some PLC stuff. We've done stuff during staff meetings. Not having that together as much as we'd like, but we're really working on making that happen. Community School Society, we've got them all in the mix. And we've got them all together. So we had a day where we did a World Cafe, and we got all those partner groups in, those main partner groups, and we started to vision about what things could possibly look like, right? All those ideas, what dream big, right? And we'll go from there. We've also had some community information nights where we try to get things out to as many people as we could. And we've been working with the students as well, and kept leaving them out of the mix, getting their input as we go. We've been embracing social media to try and get more updates out to people and to really get that input back, get the message out. And the community in Cumberland loves their Facebook, so that's helped us out a little bit. It's really an ongoing process. We're just starting where we're going through this. It doesn't end in September, right? This is going to be a process that's going to continue on. And we want to build a mechanism that we think is already really there with the School Planning Council, but to really give it a little more power to shape and move where we want to build. And right now we're trying to facilitate this. We're working with a facilitator to help that out, to really educate our partners on what School Planning Council could be, and how we can make it as effective as possible as we try to build. Go for it.
All right. One of the other things we're doing this year to combine the campuses so that when September hits, it's not a big surprise for everyone. We ran lots of events together. The first one is the Terry Fox Run. We did that first thing in the year, and it was just great. there's some photos where the leadership students are bringing up the kindergartners and the stragglers at the end, so that's really neat. We also had a joint Remembrance Day assembly, which was quite special. Everyone had a unique part in that as well. Next. Dave created this website so that we could educate both the teachers and the parents on the 21st century learning, where it's coming from, and that's on the website. You got these slides? Okay. All right. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. I just saw the pictures and that was my turn. That's okay. Yeah, so that's the Facebook page we created, and with the Facebook, I think when I was talking about getting some information out to the public, everyone assured me that currently Cumberland is where they read, it's nothing else, and they also have the Facebook updates, so that's where everyone keeps in touch, so that's what we created. Next. Okay, so that's the long-range master plan, and we're going to be doing some steps towards that for September, but eventually, as you can see, it looks more like certainly a campus feel. Treat areas, more treat areas than we currently have. I'm not going to speak to a whole lot of that because that's the grand, but you have to think big and you have to think long term. So that's the end in mind, and the next steps will be where we start. So the starting steps are pathways between the buildings, and we'll show you some pictures as to why that's a real necessity for student safety and so forth. This we're hoping would be the road, where in the middle section there. And that's where Big Toy will either be created or relocated, or anyways, that'll be the central spot for students when they go out for recess. And again, it's for student safety. You want to be able to see them all in one area. So you don't want kids out in the back of the one building, and in front of another building, and behind the other building. So we need it centrally located. So for student safety, that's pretty well paramount. And then the new circle on the right would be the renovated medical building. To be renovated 2 classrooms for this year, and as the population grows, it'll be up to 4 classrooms. Just a wonderful space in there. Okay, next. That's the medical building currently. Inside was quite a bit nicer than I originally anticipated. So we're convinced that the amount that it costs to tear it down, we could certainly renovate it, and it would be a functional building. So that was good to see that we can revive it. That used to be my old medical clinic. That's the view from the medical clinic to the elementary school currently. So we do need pathways there. Again, for student safety, that's why we need the pathways built between the 2 sites. So, and that's our view from the elementary school directly to the junior school. Again, the canopy has to be raised and possibly 1 or 2 trees. I'm not sure exactly what the plan is, but a more clear pathway between the sites is quite hard to see. Same looking just in the opposite direction. When you're standing at the sidewalk,
And lights at
junior school behind you looking at the elementary school. This is the exciting part. We have 6 classrooms out of 11 are in portables right now at the elementary site. And at the junior school, we have empty classrooms. So this is just such a wonderful, logical move, and it's very exciting to be able to get rid of 3 portables. The annex on the right will stay. We've got strong ties to that annex, but it's still a usable building, and we'll use it till it dies. But we'll have fewer kids in portables, and that's just wonderful. And again, other things, updating just the road between it, using it differently. That is the cracked piece of pavement. So key features that we're looking at. Again, we talk about that community learning hub. So we're starting off with, the K-9, but we're also bringing the preschool into it. We currently have Strong Start, but it'll be certainly added by having the preschool on site. And then we can look at older students at another time. So maybe not for September, but maybe the following September. Maybe we could keep some grade 10s and so forth in a different type of model. And again, with the offices at the medical building, we have space to potentially have the RCP, the Ministry of Children and Families, whoever needs to set up shop, we could have them. And again, it's the one-stop shop. Learning environment. Again, Dave's spoken quite eloquently about the cross-curricular competencies that we're going to be working on. Next slide. again, the true shared campus. It's unusual how, and I've worked at Cumberland Junior for years before I moved to the elementary school, and that road really divided the two schools. Like, there was very little communication going on between the two, which is crazy, because in a couple of those slides that I showed earlier in the Terry Fox run, it was a sibling, a grade 8, holding hands with her younger sister who's in my grade 2 class. So the connections are there, but they just weren't utilized. So it's wonderful that we get to get back to the point where we can be sharing everything. And what's really, the parents cheered at our PAC meeting when I said we're working on having common start and end times. They cheered. They just thought that was serious. Because it's a pain to have to pick up at different times. And the personalized learning plans, yeah. So we're going to, again, work with students, parents, and teachers and co-create these personalized plans. And yes, our big opening celebration, October 3rd, part of, again, the Village of Cumberland's Foggy Mountain Fall Fair. You'll get more information about that. And I think I've sent you information about 2 other events as well. The Cumberland Community Forest Society, we're having a large art sale and auction start of May. And all the proceeds are going to the Forest Society. And then the following month, we're having a big fundraiser, mainly for a family that really benefited from Vienna this year. And I said, as a school, we'd like to have a benefit for your family. And the family doesn't have any money. They really don't. But what they said to me was, we don't need the money. Vienna helped us out. We'd like to see a celebration where we can support Vienna and the Forest Society and community schools because they do so much for us. So that's what we're doing. So we're calling it the Village Festival and Big Fun Fair in June. So I sent that information on as well. And the last thing is the names. What are we going to call the school? So far, we've set this up. We've had 75 respondents so far. The logical one really is Cumberland Community School. That's what we thought is very logical. The Community School Society has been such a big part of our campus. So this is the input mechanism that we're sending up to parents and students, and we're collating the data, and so far most of them are very much in favor of the Cumberland Community School. So maybe the buildings will be later on. For now, if you need one name for the school.
So as we get the data from that, we'll get that out to our bosses, who will probably bring it to you with that.
That's correct.
Request.
Yeah, I gave them a checklist of things they have to do for consultation around naming, and when they've done that, they'll submit their stuff to me. Thank you. Thank you very much, and I know it's lots of information in a short period of time. Questions from anyone?
I'll be there tomorrow night. Okay.
Thank you.
There.
And if you're not, I'll sign you up for lots of jobs.
No, I'll be there. I got to protect myself here.
Peter, you got Tom here.
Tom. Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge both of your enthusiasm for this. It comes across as very genuine, and without that kind of enthusiasm and leadership at your level, these kind of ventures tend to fall flat. So I think just acknowledging your good work and the work of your colleagues. So thank you.
We'd like to acknowledge Ian for all the work he's doing for his crew as well, and all his crew. So it's a big combined effort. So it's not just us. Yeah.
I was just counting the weeks, October 3rd.
Just my thanks formally to both of you. You were the team we picked. We knew you could do it. You've provided great leadership and great vision. We're here to support from behind. I think it's really important for the Cumberland community to trust those people who are leading the visionary part, because they will be their leaders. So, Katie and Dave, thank you very much, and really appreciate you coming tonight. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda, the Education Committee report.
I can't imagine you're not staying.
Trustee Katie.
You see before you the report, and once again, I'd like to thank and acknowledge the staff at Hugon Elementary School. And our education meetings are public meetings. We've had a number of parents come out and share their enthusiasm for their outdoor education and the environmentally friendly schools. It's nice to see the parents and the children from Hugon. It's an extremely wonderful school, and we saw that from the people that came out and supported their school and their staff. And motion to adopt the report as presented.
Second.
Any questions, comments? No? All those in favor? Carried. And the next item is the Education Evolution Committee. Trustee Weber?
Turn to page 13 and 14 in your agenda package. The summary of our meeting 2 weeks ago is captured there. I also do want to just note for future reference that the material on page 14, the core competencies and district expectations, should have a big draft watermark through it because it is not something that has been reviewed in depth by the board or certainly endorsed by the board. It's very much a working document. I do want to just sort of highlight for the board under the work to date, we're looking at 3 particular opportunities in the very near future to gain some input, necessary input. One is the traditional meeting that we've had over the last couple of years in meeting with the graduating students and really utilizing their experience and their expertise to inform, as well as our connecting formally with parent representation, likely through the DPAC, and as opportunities present themselves, engaging with our teaching staff as well in partnership with senior management. And that's my report, and it's presented for your information.
Thank you.
Question, Mr. Chair. So the meeting with the students, is there any thought, like I know that we meet with them at one location. Is there any discussion with the committee about meeting with them separate, like going to Vanier and Isfield and Howland and just having, meeting with them separately? I mean, that was one of the suggestions I heard. It was talked about last year. Any more further consideration about that? Have you thought about that, or something that we would?
No, we haven't got to the planning of any of that yet.
No, we haven't planned for this year. I'm sorry, I did not hear that last year, so we didn't think about
I
that.
remember hearing about that. So I'm just wondering the planning station, whether we're going to do the same format or we're thinking of doing something different. That was just a...
We'll think about.
Can I make a comment? It's very interesting reading this. I'm glad to hear it's a draft, because I think if we really want to do community engagement, we need to let the community build the descriptions of this themselves. And so I just want us to remember that this doesn't mean that it's done, because we do need to connect this with our achievement, which is still far from where we, I know, would like it to be. And I have just in the last week had conversations with 2 young people who both graduated, who I would say need all of these. They're great kids. They did everything expected. They brought themselves to the table. One of them did our ASIC program. He chose to go into trades. He's trained in a mechanic program. He's washing cars at Toyota, and his future looks like he will be washing cars there for 4 years before he gets a chance at an apprenticeship. There's 4 people ahead of him. In spite of this. The other one, his track record, wonderful kid, graduated from Vanier very well. And his most recent experience was being constructively de-hired by McDonald's so they could replace him with a temporary foreign worker. And what happens was they feel it's their fault. They privatize the fact they're not succeeding, when I think maybe what we missed was that it's class warfare. And these kids, the best and the brightest, the ones that succeed and do their very best, aren't going to get ahead, because it isn't necessarily about this stuff. It's also about whether they get a break, a chance, and an opportunity. And as educators, we need to be thinking about what we're doing to also make that possible. So as we send them out of high school with this stuff, is it enough? That's my comment. So let's keep thinking about that. Is it enough? Because they're not doing well when they get out. Sorry to be downer, but here we are.
No, I do recall hearing that the expectation is that about 80% of students in the future will need post-secondary to get any kind of serious job. 80%. At the moment, Canada roughly sends about 50% of their students into some form of post-secondary. So we're a long way short. Part of the answer, maybe.
You're not getting that without a lot of money in the bank.
Okay, the next item is the educational update by the superintendent.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would direct the trustees and the gallery to, I'm just looking to make sure that I, page 17. Where are we? No, I'm sorry. We're not there. I'm moving ahead of myself. My apologies. I'm looking to page 15. I borrowed somebody else's package, and it was organized, Deb, and I'm not used to it. I have my notes in different format. So this is a briefing note that I had presented as part of the package, but we also have a presentation. This speaks to an update that the board requested as we moved into the Professional Learning Communities Initiative, and at the time, rightly so, the board asked for an update as we moved through the spring of this year and moving towards next year. This briefing note speaks just basically around a bit of the history of the Professional Learning Community Initiative. Where it came from for us was we had done a significant number of pilots before we put before the board a motion to go district-wide. We are currently in the implementation of a 90-minute PLC time in many months bi-monthly, so twice a month, and in very few short months like December, where we have only 3 weeks in one 90-minute section. And one of the things that I had asked some members of the board to give me some feedback about was what kind of information did they need as we were moving towards an update. So if you recall, in the past 2 Education Committee meetings ago, the whole focus of Education Committee, it was in Cumberland, was on PLCs. You heard reports from teams of teachers. There were some parents there, and talked about how what they were working on in their PLCs and how that was impacting on their practice. In addition, I had asked the principals and vice principals to provide me with some feedback to some key questions, and I'll speak to that in a minute, through Mr. Reimer, who is going to actually make a small presentation to you, in addition to the information that you already have. So, Mr. Reimer, I would ask you to do that.
Thank you. I'll just speak to the board and I'll take questions at the end of it. So the 3 questions you have for that we were, I had put up to deal with the PDP. So this really is a review of what is going on in schools. We asked them to respond to the following questions. And they choose real PLC topics that are still in the school. And describe in detail the work that has occurred. Describe in relation to the work that the PLC teams in their building, how this work is having a real-life impact on student achievement. Provide a personal quote from you as staff member about what the PLC experience has meant to your school and community. In just listening to the conversation at the point, I just want to just acknowledge the work that Katie and David are doing at Cumberland at the start of their presentation. All of those things that they want for their new Cumberland learning community in terms of adequately preparing their kids for the future. When I hear those things, I can't help but think about PLCs and the work that go on in PLCs that have changed the way we're currently doing PLCs. Listening to the stories about, our young people and difficulty that they're having in finding meaningful work. I am one of those dads. And I have a son who's in an audio recording program in medical community this week. And realizes for him to be able to do that, he's going to have to sleep on a couch in the studio for the next 5 years, even if he actually will get some meaningful work in the career. And all of those challenges that our kids are facing in a very uncertain future, I think what we can provide for kids in terms of preparing for that future, the model of education we have right now may not best suit their needs. And the real crux for them in terms of changing that reality comes from a significant step forward that comes from the PLC work that is being done. So just to sort of set the stage a little bit as I'm superintending this down, I was part of a group of administrators about 4 or 5 years ago. We started to have this conversation about 20% learning in the fields. And the conversation quickly changed to, yes, we know what 20% learning should be about, but how are we going to get there? And the vehicle for us really was the professional management model. So prior to our initiative this year, as you are aware, about 60 or more % of our schools are involved in some sort of PLC working initiative. And this, the work that we've done in the last few years has gotten us to this first year of implementation. So I won't speak to all the details of the report. When I put it up to the field and I asked principals and vice principals, can you give me some feedback around these questions? I get more than I asked for. They're just very, we want to share so much. And so I got this wave of information that was come to me over the last week and filter through it as I best I could. So what is in your hand is a small sample of what is happening, and I asked for 2 PLC teams per school. But there are a number of different PLC initiatives going on in the school that easily could have doubled or tripled the amount of that report. And so another couple of things that I want to touch on as well too is some of the benefits that I think, I'm speaking for myself, that I've seen over the course of this school year beyond just I think what we were hoping for. I've been in public education as a teacher and administrator for a while now, and as a new teacher, I didn't have the mentoring opportunities that I think new teachers have today. The PLC model really provided for our teachers dealing with some of the complexity of being a classroom teacher that certainly didn't exist when I was a beginning teacher. And now they have a vehicle to share and learn from each other. And I really wish we had that as a beginning teacher. I might not stumble as much if there was any mistakes as I did in the first few years of my teaching career. If I had a program in place where I could have meaningful, significant youth conversations about students and their learning objectives. I also want to talk about the beginning of the school year. So in August when we, well actually I'll go back even further. For our PDPs when we were getting ready to implement this school year, we were quite anxious about parental response around this. And so in a school my size, with almost 500 kids, our educational systems were going to be at the table for PLCs eventually. And we thought we're going to have to prepare to look after a school my size, 100 kids who aren't going to get picked up on those first few PLC days. In part, I think it was that parents were scratching their heads a little bit, didn't really fully understand the process of what the intent was on this. In my school and most other schools on those first 2 days, I was just so pleasantly surprised that all of our students were anxious ready for all of our kids during the PLC time. Our educational systems, instead of having to operate separate programs so those kids, while teachers can meet, could be at the table and having a conversation. And what, and I said this in other venues as well too, on that first day, I wanted to hug every parent in my school. Just to say, I understand that you might not fully understand this initiative or necessarily agree with it, but the message that I took from all of our kids being taken care of in this first few PLC was, we trust, we know what we're doing, and we have the best interest of the kids in mind. And since that time, I think the report I've in schools, and certainly that seems to be the feeling across the district. And a lot of there was some reluctance on the part of our parent community to begin with. I think they understand that what we're doing is really actually in the best interest of their kids. The adult learning piece, I'll close with just one story. In December, I asked our 6 PLC teams on the last PLC I'm going to give each one of the teams 10 minutes to present the work that you've done to this point. And we had just really gone through all the norms of collaboration and started to work in our teams. And so none of those teams could stick to 10 minutes. They had lots to say and share. And I was really struck by how far those teams had come in the work that they had done. And could really point to making a difference for student achievement. I had several staff members who came up to me after we went past our expected time in terms of the presentations that were done and said, you know, it felt like it was being back in a master's degree program again. But the work that had been shared and the learning was so deep during the apples in the room. And the conversations clearly that had taken place at the table with the PLC teams had really resonated with the people who were getting an opportunity to listen to what's being shared. For me, I think in reviewing this year, that was probably the biggest standout moment for me. I was really quite pleasantly surprised how far our groups had come that quickly. But I know that our school experience is different from other schools' experiences. So we're going to reflect back on this year as that will be a moment that we're going to listen to. So I'm happy to take questions about the
Thank you. Trustee Graham.
Be interested, have you thought about the next steps
Yeah, we've had that conversation within our association as well too, and I think what we have in place is working right now. I think we're going to, one of the things that you'll notice in the report too is the range of projects that people are working on, and the different steps along the PLC continuum that those projects fall into. I think, our recommendation from my perspective would be to just continue to stay the course. I would be reluctant to see us doing big tweaks or revisions to what we have. I think we are still taking small steps with this process, and I think we have to be cautious about going too quickly, too soon.
Thank you.
May I summarize before I close?
Yeah.
So just in closing, I wanted to thank Kevin for this, for gathering all the information. I have been deliberately, and senior management have been deliberately staying in the shadows, supporting every way we can. But I felt, and I think I said this to you a year ago, even a year and a half ago, I felt that there was such a movement from teachers themselves. We have such incredible teacher leaders in our district. This wouldn't occur in all districts, and I think people need to understand the gift of, I don't know if it's the universe aligning or there's just the right people in the right places and the right intent. And so what we have are parents who have reached deep and listened and understood and have been supportive, unsolicited. I've had more positive feedback from parents than I have had. I've had very little feedback from parents that wasn't positive, and unsolicited I've had lots of positive feedback where parents have talked about how they're seeing their child's classroom change or their son's coming home so excited about something that their teacher is trying new. But this is happening because we had great teacher leadership, we had great principal, vice principal leadership, we had a board that was willing to risk something new, and it gives us the hope and the possibility that I believe some districts might not have to fulfill not just the mandate of the BC Ed Plan in the 21st Century Learning because it comes from government, but more importantly because it came from us. We were looking, as you were looking in your strategic vision, to work together to make things better for kids, to engage them, to motivate them, and to prepare them for the world of the future. Well, in all that a teacher and an EA and a principal and a vice principal already does in a busy day, how would we expect them to do all of that off the side of their desk? And so for me, we learned through the professional partnership initiatives of of this board, the past board, and the board before, that the best investment to make change and to help students is time. Teachers and EAs working together with principals and vice principals in schools. And so for me, we are on a journey. We are not there. It's not perfect. We are 6 months into, basically, because we really were immersed in August, 6 months on the road to working together. We had to learn how to do that. We had to learn what truly is an inquiry question, what truly is something that you can assess, what truly is professional learning together. That took a little time, but I'm confident that already we're seeing changes in classrooms, and teachers and parents and administrators are reporting that things are changing in schools. And so any hope we might have of fulfilling our dreams for our kids is tied to teachers working together and being respected for that with time. So I would hope that you would consider a motion of endorsement for us to continue down the PLC road. It's not perfect. We will look at, couldn't presume what today's outcome would be, so you don't have dates and times, and we're not on the calendar yet around, is it going to be every Wednesday? I haven't heard anyone lobby me significantly for the day to be changed. Right now, Kevin and I work with the steering committee of PVPs, and of course, Kevin and I are on the same page around, I don't see major changes for next year. Everything needs time to take root and to get its feet firmly on the ground. But certainly, I would say to you that there has been enough work done with such integrity for us to continue, and if I didn't think that, I wouldn't be putting the motion in front of you. So I would ask you to consider a motion of endorsement for next year.
Move the recommendation. Okay. Just a comment, Trustee Gamp.
Seconded.
Pardon? Seconded? Trustee Gamp, okay. Trustee Gambacorda and I had the pleasure of hearing an update on the GP Vanier PLC activity, which is listed here or described here briefly. And in fact, we heard the outcomes as opposed to the activities. And the outcomes were very significant endorsement by parents of the activities of that particular PLC group in Vanier. I thought it was an astonishingly good report from parents. And it was particularly interesting to me because they replicated one of the propositions that I wrote about 20 years ago, and they replicated it exactly. The finding was exactly what I had with a group of students 20 years ago. So,
Peter, I think we have time.
yes, Trustee Barber.
Tom and-
I'll start.
Go ahead, I'll go after you.
So, I hate to be a stickler, but I think the recommendation doesn't ask what, it asks us to consider a motion.
Yeah, you need to make a,
So is this a notice of motion?
no, it was that I couldn't presume to write the motion.
Oh, okay.
So you could make a motion that endorses professional.
Okay, so to that, actually, I don't think we need to do that. I think the board has endorsed this. I almost think there's a reverse onus on the board, that if the board wants to do something different, the motion should be to do something different. So I just really don't feel that we need to be into an annual or biannual. We endorse. You've come through with the board's expectation in terms of providing the report and the summary.
I was actually going to make a motion to withdraw with my seconder because when I read it, I realized what it so. So I'm going to make a motion to withdraw with my seconder with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Because when I read this, it didn't make any sense to me, and plus the fact that we had already endorsed PLCs
Yeah, that you have.
previously, and so it's just a continuum
It
of
is.
the process. And so apparently it's already been withdrawn, so
So the motion is off the floor.
Any other questions?
Any questions or comments?
Yes.
Trustee Caton.
So, the conferences I've gone to, everyone has been very positive about the PLCs, and the parents have definitely, and the children benefit by the upcoming. The only concern that I've heard is that they would like to have it, it was the time frame. They want to know that every second Wednesday and every fourth Wednesday of the month. In the 1 month there was once because it was missed. So I'm just wondering, is there any thought? I know that those months that we've had, the Christmas or Easter, that we tend to skip it one. And that when there was any thought to having it more, that was the only concern they have, is they want to have it consistent. It's easier for parents to pick up, make sure that every second Wednesday of the month, the second or the fourth Wednesday, whether it's a short month or a long month, they know that's the day that the kids are coming out to the word.
So through you, Mr. Chairperson, we've heard those concerns. I have a list of them all. We are prepared to discuss those and move on them. It didn't seem to me that it was appropriate for me to bring that forward to this meeting. That would presume that we were moving ahead. So that we would include those things in. For the May meeting, I know we are no longer required to do it under Bill 36, but I think, like you, we all want to see the calendar for next year with all the start times and like we used to. It makes us feel better. They're all colored. We know what days of the weeks were our Pro D days and things. So that we will do that work. We've already been doing that work, and we'll present that to you in May, because we've heard those concerns as well. Some of them we can meet and some of them we can't. And I will put out the final call for lobbying the superintendent regarding changing the date. So far, I haven't heard anybody ask me to change.
Okay. Trustee McDonald.
Well, I'm just conflicted about PLCs because I'm really interested in them. I'm interested in what people are doing with them and the benefits of them, but I also think that we have some financial constraints. There are also other important services. We have proven programs like the CST that support the teachers' peer learning and all the processes. And so I'm always interested in together reports. I would have been reluctant to vote in favor of this, having just received this. I really want time to absorb it and read it and think about it and continue to monitor this. But we do know in terms of, it's always that question: is this at this time a priority in outcomes? So those are things I can't judge, and so I continue to rely on on the input, and I really appreciate it, but it is a place that we're always having to reflect. So it's great. It's good to have one. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? No? The next item is our Director of Elementary, Mr. Douglas, on early years.
Really ties in nicely with KLC. So the change results for young readers, which you know very well, because we presented Carol Walter and I at the Education Committee meeting about a month ago, is really a provincial initiative. There's 57 of 67 school districts involved in the project, and it's really like a huge PLC of learning. And we were recently there, probably about 10 days ago, and this one young girl sought me out from Vancouver School District. She's a high school teacher. She's doing changing results at high school. And she said to me, she looked at me and she goes, you're from that district, the Comox Valley, that has that PLC stuff. You guys get to do this all the time. We only get 7 days a year to do it, she said, or 7.5 days to meet with our teams. And I said to her, yes, we are. We're doing some incredible stuff in our district around the PLC stuff. And it was interesting to me that she knew about this in Vancouver. She asked me right away, any chance of me moving to the Comox Valley? Let's move on. So, anyway, we have the goal of the Changing Results for Young Readers is to increase the number of BC children who are engaged as successful readers. So the project is an inquiry-based project. What happens is our teams, and we're in 3 elementary schools this year, and we were in 3 last year, and I'm happy to say that the government announced at the meeting that the funding will come forward again in year 3, so we'll continue with the plan. The idea is that you look at your class, and you find a child who you've tried all kinds of things with, and they're just not making the reading progress that you had hoped. And so through collaboration, you meet with your team, and our teams consist of an administrator, a learning support teacher, 2 teachers from the school, and each of them have a child that they're focusing on, and the CST. And they meet, and they work with Carol Walters and myself, and we work through that inquiry, showing best practices, and trying out a number of different things, because we're trying to improve the reading. In year 1, we worked with Puntners Park, Courtney Elementary, and Quinish. And in year 2, we're working at Miracle Beach, Aspen, and Arden. I think it's exciting, just to give you a little flavor of the inquiry questions this year. One of our schools is using technology. They're trying to look at iPads and using that technology to build engagement around reading. Another school is working on building meaning rather than the phonetics approach. And a third one is looking at focusing on positive attention around reading. So we're excited about the work that they're doing, and the whole idea of the project is if you focus on reading with one student, you're going to in turn be focusing on reading and lots of children in the class benefit from that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about changing results for young readers. And I wanted to mention a little bit about Strong Start, because I really never know how much you know about that, and I want to make sure you know a lot about it. So we have 4 permanent Strong Start centers in our district. We're located at Quinish, Courtneyelle, Cumberland, and Brooklyn. And we have 1 mobile Strong Start. It's sort of our outreach program. So our Strong Start facilitator goes to Puntners Park 1 day a week, Royston 2 days a week, and Aspen School. And she has a big vehicle. She's filled full of materials. And every time when she goes to one of these mobile sites, it's building the Strong Start Center. They give her a room, she creates the stuff, and families come in. Our other centers are extremely popular, and it continues to be just a wonderful resource for parents and for children coming into our school system. And the last thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about around early learning was Welcome to Kindergarten. So in our district, we have a partnership with our early years folks, and I'll pass this one around, where we have customized our Welcome to Kindergarten for every one of our elementary schools. So our early years partners in our community have gone around and taken pictures of each of our schools. Our print shop put this booklet together, and when we bring our kindergarten students that will come into our schools for September into our session, for the orientation. They come around, they go through a number of centers, they meet the kindergarten teachers, they see the school, they have a tour, they meet the administrator, they end up with this little bag. And in the bag are materials that we give to every family to promote literacy, numeracy, all those skills that we like children to come to school with. And we always say this is what every child should do. But now we actually put the materials in the bag, we show the parents how to use them, and we give them for them to take home. And in that bag is this book. And this book has turned out, when we surveyed parents, to be one of the biggest highlight, because it's about their school. So we gave the template to the province, and now districts all over the province use our template and put their own information in. It's just a nice little color thing of everything they're going to see at school. And parents tell us by the time the children get to kindergarten, this looks a little tattered because they've looked at it so many times. So the Welcome to Kindergarten will be happening in every elementary school, and they'll be starting anytime soon and running right into May and early June. So those are our 3 big things I wanted to talk about early learning today. Any questions?
Kindergarten really was the peak, wasn't it?
I never thought school was this good.
It was good.
It's to use more angles, right?
Laura Ingalls, yeah.
Thank you. Any, no? Let's move on. Our next update is from our Assistant Superintendent, Trades and Technology.
Thank you very much. Trades and technology, busy time of year, lots happening. This is the time of year where students and teachers get to, in the trades and technology field, get to reap the benefits of their hard work. And just highlighting a few things, we had 30 students representing grades 6 to 12 competed in the provincial championships for Skills Canada. And of the 30 that went over, we came back, 13 of them came back with medals, 2 gold medals, or gold medal teams, 3 silver, 3 bronze. The 2 gold medal winners, one robotics team from Isfeld, and first time ever, an auto mechanic from Highland will be competing in the National Skills Challenge in Mississauga in June. So it's quite an accomplishment to get that far. It's nice to see the first-time auto mechanic, and that student is a product of the ACIT program that runs at Highland. So we even had at the provincial champion, we had our junior spaghetti bridge builders. Some of our younger students compete very well. So the Skills Canada is an excellent program, bought into by all of our schools, and they all send them over, not only in traditional trades, but in past years we've had students competing in the baking, cooking, culinary arts programs as well. Should point out we had a number of our staff members, and you can see them on the notes in front of you, who represented our districts and who were served as judges and chaperones. So a huge thank you and applause to all those folks involved in that. Yes to It grants. We were issued, and we've been the recipient of a $3,000 Yes to It grant for the Try-A-Trade program, which is a program you may recall Randy Gray shared with us. And it is our hope that by the end of the year we'll have most, if not all, of our elementary schools go through that Try-A-Trade program at least once. And I know as I look around the room, many adults in this room were part of a Try-A-Trade program at one point. It's a highly successful program that the ministry is currently looking at and trying to, shall we say, box up into a package that other schools can and other districts can use to promote trades. And Randy Gray, who we owe a huge thank you for his work in all of this, is constantly meeting with Larry Espy, who's the superintendent in Victoria of Trades and Technology, and constantly going over how they're using our district as a model for trades and work experience and training, and how can other districts increase the profile of trades. So not only that, with the trades and tech, we've got some dual credit courses. Currently, about 60 students are enrolled in dual credit courses at North Island College. The majority in the English and psychology areas. However, next year we will have 2 students who are going to be completing their entire grade 12 year at North Island studying fine arts. So it's a great partnership with the college for those kids who are able to move beyond. If you're out and about around Isfeld in the near future, just take a look at the old, or the bus loop, I guess, and you will see houses starting to rise on the tarmac, the back section. They are the ACID carpenters, and they're working hard. This is the first part of their program. They finish this part. They go to the college for between 6 to 8 weeks this summer, and they leave with their level 1 technical and credited hours towards their apprenticeship. And that's all as part of their course work at the schools. It's really neat to watch as you drive by. You'll see walls, you'll see a roof, then you'll see the roof come down, and then you'll see people climbing on it, learning how to shingle. And tradespeople from the valley are brought in for our own folks, and many partnerships have joined in, and they come in and actually work with the kids to provide them with fall arrest, to provide them with roofing, how to roof properly, all those components that are required for the program. So keep your eyes open, and if you're around, stop by. It's nice to see these folks. The site is actually treated like a job site. So with the foreman and the students each crew gets a foreman, and they've got their hats on, and they're going, and they have a different schedule, but it's strictly business, and it's really enjoyable to see. So stop by. The last one is just an interesting point. The growth trade in our valley is under, the biggest one right now is welding. We're sending more kids to North Island College and growing exponentially. And that has a lot to do with the welding program that has been established at G.B. Vanier by a gentleman by the name of Chris Armstrong, who's done a phenomenal job there. And so the number of welders is increasing, and that's our big increase. The other point, where the trades and technology, this is an exciting one, where they have joined up with our DL partners. They've created a course with Navigate, and the official title, I'm going to call it, it's the Oil Patch. It's not the Cabbage Patch, it's the Oil Patch course. And what it is designed to do is, oftentimes the young folks leave and they go to the oil fields, and when they get there, they realize they need this certification, a whole list of certificates and different trainings. This course is designed for students to take those and complete all that training while they're here, so that when they leave, they're job ready. And that's in conjunction with Navigate and our work experience and tech folks who've joined to create that course. It'll be available not only for our students, but for students who enroll in Navigate from across the province. So another exciting thing that's happening, and again, another course that I know the ministry has been very excited, Larry Espy specifically, who comes from Fort St. John, and they didn't have a course of this nature. So it's the folks have been working really hard on this to create opportunities for kids. We heard it over and over about our students being ready for the work world ahead of them, and this is another example of things that we're doing to prepare them for that. So lots happening in the area of trades and technology. Any questions?
Comments, questions? Okay, thank you. Next item is Brooklyn Elementary School, Director of Instruction.
Yes, I'd like to turn you to the PowerPoint at the back or front. And Russell, are you going to...
I will do whatever you ask of me.
Okay, so next one, Russell. I'd like to introduce you to Quinn and Evan. These boys are 2 grade 6 students from Brooklyn Elementary, both with special needs designations. And both these boys participated in the Heritage Fair earlier this month. They were able to participate fully because their teacher
their resource teacher, the student services tech coordinator, and the SETBC consultant together as a team were the recipient of a SETBC Tip 3 classroom inclusion project. Now, some of you probably are not aware of what SETBC is, and SETBC is a provincial resource program established by the Ministry of Education to assist school districts in educating students whose access to the curriculum is restricted primarily due to the following disabilities: physical disabilities or chronic health impairments, visual impairments, dependent handicaps, deaf blindness, autism spectrum disorder, or moderate to profound intellectual disabilities. Their mandate is to lend assistive technology, reading, writing, and communication tools where required to ensure students access to educational programs and to assist school districts in providing the necessary training for students and educators in the use of these technologies. Now, go to the next one, please. The next one is Karen West leading a session with the classroom. You can go to the next one. These are the kinds of things that they talked about when they talked about technology in the classroom. Now, the reason that she's in the classroom and not really working one-to-one or one-to-two with these two students is that this particular grant is a technology inclusion project. And this year, the project was designed to help resource room teachers use assistive technology with students with their multiple disabilities, but the focus this year was to support classroom teachers in developing an inclusive learning unit with activities which integrate technology and facilitate the inclusion of all students, giving specific emphasis to including students with severe or multiple disabilities. The classroom teacher had to collaborate with the district or school-based resource teacher and a SETBC consultant to plan and implement a classroom-wide learning unit which integrated technology and facilitates inclusion of all students. If you go to the next slide, please, Russell. Here's an example of another student using their technology. And the next one, Russell. The teacher is Jan Smith from Brooklyn, and she's developing a blog to work through some of the technology in her classroom. And this is a picture of one of the fellows with his Heritage Fair project on the ultralight. And they're actually at the Heritage Fair at this time, and this one is on Taekwondo. So if you look at the projects, they look a lot like projects that any student would do. And that is what was so fabulous about this inclusion project. That with the use of technology, and they were only one of 16 classrooms that received this particular grant across the province. So it was a pretty big deal for them. They received 3 iPads with Otter boxes. They used iPad apps. I have the list of them. They used Book Creator. They used Show Me. They used iMovie. All to get the information that they needed. And as you can see, they were judged very similarly to every other student who was at the Heritage Fair. That's Karen West and Tracy Peterson. Actually, the teacher set up that the special ed, the student services staff would be their judges, and they also provided us with booklets that would kind of prompt us with the questions that we were supposed to ask, because they knew those answers. They didn't receive the booklets, and they asked very in-depth questions, and these 2 boys were able to answer everything that was thrown at them. They were able to participate. The room was not overstimulating for them, and you can see that was our team. That's just another one. So this is the comment from the dad. Wow, great photos. Thank you so much. He was absolutely exhausted when he got home. And the memorable parts of the day were the pool with the rope and explaining his Taekwondo to Mr. Berry. So that's the SETBC grant. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right.
How will that continue?
Yeah.
Once the lessons you've learned, the technology, you still have it to use?
Yes, they still have the technology. They were awarded the iPads and the technology and the apps through their budget. So that's how it continues.
Great.
We have an additional item on the agenda, item E there, the open student letter to the minister.
I can put it there.
Yeah, that's a good spot. Well, you know, of course we were disappointed when the Saanich made the decision not to continue, and it was based on a great deal of the expense relating to having to link with the ID card that was going to be the pass, and maybe will one day be embedded in our heads, I guess, I don't know, but and that the letter mentions that the need to support the cost of doing that. Now I gather, I have an understanding that a card is not, you know, the link to the card is not going to be required, and presumably even with the new person it's not, or this other company that has been chosen at 3 times the cost. And so I think that we need to send another letter, or we need to discuss with Saanich revolt.
That's true. I'll just update you. For reasons that were astonishing to lots of folks, at the very end of the process which had been billed as being voluntary for school districts to sign up, some chose to choose the Aspen system, and other districts like ourselves chose to keep our options open. We had actually sent one of our very talented timetabler VPs to sit on a steering committee around the Aspen product, and we had, of course, been piloting with Saanich the Open Student, and we were leaning towards Open Student. Certainly hadn't seen anything in the Aspen product that would make our change our mind. And at the end of the day, not as many districts signed up with Aspen as I think government had originally anticipated. And of course, the promise to those districts that would sign up for Aspen, the son of BC-ESIS we're calling it, the cost would remain the same or less, and that would mean it would have to remain at $10 and under. And of course, they had counted on big districts in the Metro Vancouver area particularly to sign up to make that cost happen. When those districts like ourselves had not signed up for Aspen, and we were looking at other options, they were Open Student being one of them. A couple of districts in the interior were looking at, they had been piloting their own, another software program. Suddenly came a notice from Government Ministry of Education that a new requirement would be in place, and that was around this new card that is identity card, and that the any software program that would be other than the Aspen program would need to be able to manage this new card, which, to be fair to Open Student and Saanich, who had already invested $2 million in it at that point in time, was going to be a huge cost at a very 11th hour, and they weren't able to manage that. And then in the ensuing 2 weeks, there was pressure on districts to sign up for Aspen as they were trying to manage the cost. And no one believed at that point in time that anyone had the ability to do anything other than Aspen, because no one could manage the card. 2 weeks into that process, the requirement around the card was removed. The new system will not have it, and it will not be a requirement. And it turns out it probably couldn't have been a requirement of the Open Student. Most districts had signed contracts at that point in time with regarding Aspen. So to be fair to Saanich, they couldn't have responded to the card. And then the districts that were waiting and were looking, were not necessarily thinking they were going to sign up with Aspen, faced with no system at all, and probably some pressure to make a decision, made a decision, signed up with Aspen as the only option that could manage the card, and the card is no longer required.
I think that we've been manipulated, and I think that I don't like that, and I think that we should indicate our intention to withdraw our support and pursue the Saanich choice should they decide to revise it. That would in fact be a prudent strategy to take for the money that's already being invested.
Maybe just if I could just counter that just with a bit of information. Where we all are is that We signed up at the very, well, we were probably at 12:05. Lots of pressure, but we did because there was no other option at the time. We're actually, because we had our foot in that camp, we were going to pilot a bit because we have some expertise from that table, and we were going to move ahead because we followed the line of thought that was currently prevailing. At this point in time, I did check with Saanich, what was it, mid last week, and they're stalled. I don't know that they're going to be moving ahead in any way, shape, or form in the near future. I don't know, Russell. I haven't heard that they are. So the best thing for us to do, Trustee McDonald, is for us to report back to you and just check where Saanich is. I'm not sure. They're in tough financial times right now, Saanich. I'm not sure how much more how farther they're going to go, because there are many districts who were waiting perhaps to sign up with Open Students signed with Aspen. So don't know how that's going to go.
One of the, just a comment, one of the other things we learned at the GP Van Eve PAC meeting was how impossible the current system is for teachers to simply have to hand enter all of the, they were trying to make connections with parents. They had to hand enter all of the email addresses of parents.
Yeah.
Could not be done
Can't batch
via
it.
the school system at all.
Under the old system.
And so hundreds and hundreds of hours of wasted work.
I believe that the new Aspen system will allow you to batch that. Most systems have progressed since then. Open Student had it. Aspen will probably have that ability to batch it up.
Yes.
But I do think, to Sheila's point, I think suggesting that we're manipulated is a dramatic understatement. The powers that be within the Ministry of Education, there are enough of them, and there's enough knowledge to know what would have worked and what didn't.
Yeah.
So this notion that at the 11th hour, oh gosh, the card thing won't work after all, is arguably just not something that I find even remotely believable. So I appreciate where we as others got backed into a corner and have had to commit to something else. But at the very least, I think that it's incumbent upon us, if we send this letter, then at least send another letter and would ask it to go out under the chair's signature on behalf of the board. That just really speaks to the, and I'll defer the phraseology to others, but the manipulative flavor that this has. Again, recognizing that this is something that everybody went into, and particularly Saanich, with the full endorsement of the Ministry of Education. This is not, people didn't do this on a flyer. They did this with purpose. And
the term co-governance doesn't quite resonate as much as it did before.
It's a trust thing.
Trustee Kagan?
So I agree that we should write a letter, but to be honest with you, I don't think anybody in Victoria is going to listen to us anyway. I believe that the letters that BCST, the board, sent, and other school districts have sent regarding numerous issues, and reading the feedback that we're getting back from the government over the financial implications, the Open Student, and the capital projects and that. So we can try, and we'll see what happens, but I don't believe anyone's going to listen to us. But I will hopefully maybe at our AGM coming up this weekend we have a chance to speak to the minister and during question and answer period. Maybe one of us Darren trustees will get up there and ask them that question. So we'll see what happens. But I'll say try the letter, although what it'll do, I'm not too sure anymore.
Just as a matter of information, the letter is on page 7-8 of your package. It has not actually gone. This is a draft. We can certainly rewrite the draft a little bit to reflect this discussion. I have to say that the most important issue, I think, is that we do get a sensible, up-to-date working system. I mean, I would have preferred Open Student like everyone else, but if the new system that we are obliged to be members of actually does provide a decent level of technical competence, which the old one certainly did not, then I guess we can cut our losses, but it would still have been preferable to
There's a
have
real fear about that, I'll have to tell you. So one of the reasons why we looked at Open Students so significantly was that, and with such optimism, was that the original conversations with the Ministry of Education started 3 years ago. And in those, I have all my notes and all from, because I was at all of those meetings, and every single time we were told, this time we will grow our own product. We will make our own software program. It will be BC made for BC public schools. We will not buy somebody else's already made software program, which is what we did with ESIS, and stretch it to make it work. Because to be fair to BC ESIS, the one that's not working, it was never meant to work for us the way that we've asked it to work over the years in the volume and its capacity. It was a canned program that was made for not for education at all, that was tweaked. And so the original conversation with the ministry folks was, this will be specifically for education by education. And now we're at a place where it's now Follett. Follett's a big multi-global company. We're buying a library software program, basically, which they're going to stretch and make it work into education. So initially, like ESIS, it will be an improvement on ESIS. Most things would be. And certainly there will be a base level that will be much better right now because technology has improved in 7 or 8 or 9 years. The fear is that this Aspen, though it looks prettier, is still a canned project that eventually will hit the walls of its capacities and will be continuing to stretch it. So that's the fear. So the question we need to ask, and actually they have to figure out who to ask at the ministry right now because no one's really in charge of Aspen, is what is phase 2 and how much does phase 2 cost? Because what we're hearing that anything that you would like it to do differently, you have to pay for, which is what happened with ESIS. And so what happened was we never got to phase 2 and 3, or phase 3 and 4 for sure, because the cost to the province and to school districts was overwhelming. So we lived inside something that was had met and had our needs had surpassed. In the 3rd year, we lived with it for another 11 years because we couldn't afford to pay the company to fix it. They had a fix, but nobody could afford to do it. So the fear is that history will repeat itself. That's the dilemma. That's the dilemma.
Whose interests were served by this little game?
Yeah.
That's the question.
What I propose to do here is to redraft this letter after listening to this discussion, and I believe we should make some suggestions about what we consider imperative minimal standards of information management competence that we must have in the new system. We can consult.
Yeah, Rob Moore has.
Yeah, we can consult with our staff, and but it seems to me that we're with a system now that's absolutely unworkable.
Well, this is true. Could we ask them for minimum standards of integrity in their?
That may be a stretch too far. We should push on. Next item is we have no report from the Engaging Our Community Committee. The Relationships Committee, Trustee Payton and Trustee Gambler-Corda.
Trustee Gambler-Corda is going to speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we've met a couple times. We are looking at ways to acknowledge our community partners, specifically, and the report's on page 16, sorry. Specifically, our local businesses, as we've been discussing this, realizing the magnitude of their generosity, and wanting to make sure that they know how much we appreciate and value what they bring to us. We're looking at doing a couple of little things, the celebration event in the fall, and meeting again to discuss and move forward on some of the things, but it's all right there.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Okay. Next item is the superintendent's good news items.
I would refer you to page 17, where we have had a busy month. We've had a number of our students have been singled out for awards, and one of the most exciting is I had a chance of meeting this young woman at Markisfeld who won a national novel writing contest, and she collected $2,000 in prize money. So good for her. And she has a novel that will be published, and it's entitled Fallout. And at grade 9, that is pretty promising beginning to your career as an author. We have, of course, if you hadn't seen them in the Valley, it was hard to miss them. They kind of moved as a large group. We had 33 high school students and 3 teachers from Italy at Vanier. They had a wonderful time. The sponsors did nothing but tell us how wonderful they all the time. They didn't really know what to expect. They hadn't been to British Columbia before, and they were doing exchanges where there was homestays involved, and they weren't so sure about how that would go. The homestays were fabulous. The kids had a wonderful time, and they did all kinds of activities. They went together with their home study friends or their peer partners from their classes. So they attended classes at Vanier, they lived with homestays, and they had a wonderful time. And already that partnership has expanded, and we'll be sending 20 Vanier students and 2 teachers to Italy in October. And it's only going to grow. So that was certainly a worthwhile venture for everyone. They all start off a little shy and a little nervous with each other, and then when the bus comes to take them to the airport, they're all crying. And they're all hugging, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time. We also, again, had some students who were recognized, and this time from North Island College. They had a Community Youth Award, and they acknowledged students that might not normally receive recognition for their contribution. And you will see that we had a Glacier View student who received this award, and this is about students who may themselves be struggling with things in life, but reaching out and helping others, and by doing that, lifting themselves. And so it's a wonderful award. It certainly was our first experience with that, and we were really thrilled. And I know the program students who actually came and interviewed the young woman and actually accepted the applications from a number of students in our district were really moved by the work that these students were doing, and they wanted to acknowledge that. So that's a new award, and hopefully will continue year after year. I wanted to talk a little bit about, if you haven't already seen it, please vote for Cole Rob Road. Every day, apparently, you can vote. Every day. I keep forgetting to do it every day, but I've done it many times.
Vote often.
Vote often. They're doing well, but they've been selected as a finalist in the outdoor classroom competition, and it all counts. And they're not very far off being. They were 4th and then 5th, and I think they're back to 4th right now. So if you have an opportunity, please to vote for them. They would be most appreciative. We had a very successful District Heritage Fair with 200 students presenting their projects. You saw actually a sample of that up on the screen. We need to remember that the Heritage Fair only works when we get 50 or so community people to come help with the organization and the judging in particular. It is the most amazing experience to be with the kids, but also to look at the faces of the judges with their clipboards. They are an amazing group of people. They're businessmen, they're retired folks, they're retired educators, a lot of those retired forces people who remembered this from when they were at the base and they were working, and as they retired in Comox, they signed themselves up to be judges for it. So I've met 2 or 3 folks who did that as they retired. They said, one of the things I thought when I moved back here, I'd be able to be a judge at the Heritage Fair. So they're community members. And when you think about 50 community members coming out and spending the whole day with hundreds of kids, and listening to their stories and looking at their projects, that's a pretty great community partnership, because we always have enough judges, which means that they either come back because they've had such a good time, or they've shared that experience with someone else and brought somebody with them usually. And finally, just you saw some acknowledgement of our Skills Canada students who were so successful, but it is Destination Imagination time, of course, and it was around Skills Canada, same kind of time, and of course we just 2 weeks ago had, oh my goodness, I think there were 11 teams at the the provincial Destination Imagination, and there was a quasi-regional competition as well, and our students, of course, did extremely well. Many of them qualified for globals. They were, of course, highly successful. The elementary students all the way through to high school, once again got a special acknowledgement from the Destination Imagination judges by both the number and the quality of all of their offerings. And so that's a pretty incredible thing. It speaks to the fact that teachers are using the Destination Imagination curriculum in their classrooms, finding it meaningful, and so students are being exposed at an earlier and earlier age. And it's something that they look forward to the competition, but more importantly, they look forward to the camaraderie in the space. And when you have 200 bright, enthusiastic, engaged students from all over the province, there's pretty good energy there. We had a number of adults who went as both sponsors, went as supervisors, and went as judges. Our district committed the most judges to the competition of any other school district, including the Lower Mainland. Our teachers were judging as well. So it is alive and well and very successful. So thank you.
Thank you. On to human resources.
This is the time of year when we start to see more retirement resignations and things that so I can acknowledge all these folks. So first, Brian Kim is a senior custodian at Courtney Elementary. Will retire June 30th after 33 years of service in the district. Susan Prozic, educational assistant at Arden, will retire June 26th after 24 years of service. Davina Mercer, EA at Miracle Beach, will retire June 26th after 16 years of service. Gary Ellis, EA at Marcus Feld, will retire June 20th after 17 years of service to the district. Scott Montgomery, he is a teacher, counselor, and student services, will retire May 31st after 21 years of service to the district. Dave Allen, teacher at J.P. Vanier, will retire June 30th after 22 years of service. And Terry Renison, admin assistant at J.P. Vanier, will retire May 31st after 36 years of service with the district. If you count the number of years, there's quite a lot of folks there. 159. And you see the resignations, those are all folks on personal leave who decide not to return and pursue other activities. So all those retirees will be honored at the board retirement function coming out in June. That's my report.
Okay. On to board committee reports. Finance committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You see on page 19, the start of the Finance Committee minutes. Just some points here. The budget consultation process has concluded, and its recommendation adjustments in the following areas certainly have been done in the maintenance department, information technology, district admin, school board office, student services and support teachers, student supervision, and teacher-pupil ratios. From my colleague and I, just an observation that our projected operating revenue as of June will be down to $1.1 million, and that's down from $2.64 million from last year. There is a deficit of $2.1 million shortfall to deal with. We are concerned about certain contingencies for the fall. We believe that the budget must contain some flexibility to respond to unanticipated needs and provide the board and administration an opportunity to respond. I talk about BC Hydro as one of those examples. And certainly school district in Vancouver with a estimated cost of an additional $1 million just sort of highlights that concern. We just don't have a crystal ball that we can look into, but however, we're doing the best we can. So we really have to look at contingencies for the unexpected requirements in the fall during the next school year. Certainly the Finance Committee will be meeting on May the 15th, and we will consider any further recommendations. We will now be working into a process of sharing the budget consultation with our partner groups over the next week and a half, from tomorrow until the 9th of May. And then we will be going to the Finance Committee on the 15th to finalize, and bringing a proposed budget to the board on the 27th of May. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a briefing note on the operating budget from the Secretary Treasurer.
That has been covered.
Covered? Okay. The next issue is the Carbon Neutral Capital Program bylaw. Secretary Treasurer?
Yes, in your package on page 21 is a copy of the bylaw and supporting information on page 21, 22, and 23, 24. Sorry. So what we have is funding that we've received from the Carbon Neutral Capital Program, CNCP. This year we're receiving 67,000.
57.
Sorry.
57,000?
67.
67,093. And it is supporting domestic hot water replacement, as well as support for energy studies So to receive this funding, we require the bylaw to be approved, and then we will submit it to get our credit to access the funding. And on page 4 of your agenda is the 4 motions that we require.
So I move that school district number 71 Comox Valley 2014-15 carbon neutral capital program bylaw number 126722 in the amount of $67,090 receive its first reading.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. And the second reading.
School District Number 71, Comox Valley, 2014-15 Carbon Neutral Capitals Program Bylaw Number 126722 in the amount of $67,093 received its second reading.
Second.
All those in favor? And the third reading.
That the board unanimously agree to suspend the requirements of the School Act and the board's procedural bylaw 2013 to have the third reading of the 2014-15 carbon neutral capital program bylaw at a subsequent reading.
Second.
All those in favor? And the final reading.
That School District Number 71, Comox Valley, 2014-15 Carbon Neutral Capital Project Bylaw Number 126722 in the amount of $67,093 receive its third and final reading.
Seconded. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And the next item is the GP Vanier seismic update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Hesselgrave and myself are going to do a PowerPoint presentation to update the board and on our discussions with the Ministry of Education on the seismic project for GP Vanier. Sorry for the audience, it's on behind you. Okay, so just some facts to remind ourselves. So back in May 2012, the Ministry announced Vanier as a high 1 risk school. We commenced our study at that time of whether it was going to be a modernization around seismic work or a new school. In October 2012, we included a replacement school in our capital plan. And in January, we received the final seismic report. So at the time when we asked for the replacement school, we actually hadn't received the final seismic study at that time. Between February and May 2013, there was this thing called an election going on. And we worked some opportunities at that time to see what might happen and didn't receive our replacement school. We are hoping that by June of this year we will complete the project definition report, which we'll speak to a little later. And after the project definition report is complete, then we need to sit down with the ministry and negotiate the project agreement that actually provides the funding.
A project definition report. I have to admit to when this process started, I've been involved in the periphery of one seismic project, and it's a bit of a boondoggle when you go to the ministry, and there's SPIRs and PIRs and PDRs, and really this PDR, project definition report, is the crux of this work that we're doing. And in simplest terms, what you need to do within your project definition report is define what has to happen to this school in order to meet the desired outcome, which for us is to have outside a school that will be safe for staff and students in the event of a major seismic event. So this is it's a really comprehensive study of the building, and within that, you pull in a series of experts that look at the dirt, they look at the walls, they look at the hazards, they look at the construction that was done, and come up with options. And within that, we had to talk to our partners as well, the municipality, because the building code has changed a little since 1965. So within there, there's lots of things we need to, and you can't come to the ministry with surprises after the fact, because the money is the money. So within here, you come up with a number of options to solve that problem. What we come up with in this is there's really 5 options. And again, we get into this strange terminology, the life safety retrofit.
That means that if you do a life safety retrofit in seismic terms, that you're going to make the school seismically sound in an architecturally pleasing way. So essentially when you do this, you bolt the walls to the ceiling and you add a whole bunch of steel columns. That's the simplest way of looking at a seismic upgrade. But these steel columns would be nestled within the walls. They wouldn't be outside. You would actually get a repaint. You would maybe have some new flooring. And it's a clean version of a full retrofit seismically. The second one, the replacement school, of course, is the perfect solution because you get rid of the seismic cake that exists. But that's not supported by the ministry. Phased retrofit is really the other option around seismic. And phased means you're phasing to something. So your 500 columns now, it's strapped to the outside of the school and in the hallways. And it's not architecturally pleasing, nor is it a long-term, it's as long-term solution as life safety retrofit, because you're phasing to something which is typically a new school, or if you're looking at end of life because of changing demographics and that school's no longer required in 15 years, a pretty good answer. But when you're not replacing schools and defining enrollment districts, it's a tricky one to phase to because we don't necessarily have something to phase to. The other two on the bottom, the hybrid and the hybrid full scope, have sort of developed in the last few months. I think we've popped ahead a slide. What happens in a hybrid option, which has been successfully done in a couple of other school districts, is you get a full seismic like the life safety retrofit. However, you manipulate the school in such a way that you don't require portables. Because within a seismic project in a school like Vanier, if you have to put in 20 to 24 portables over the course of a 3-year project, that's about a $5 million touch. Because they have to be, probably have to have a fire hydrant, you have to be able to do a science lab, you have to be able to do drama, art classes. So in this case, what you would do is build new space onto the school as the first phase of your project. That new space, once it's completed, would be your spring space. So you take kids out of another area of the school, move into the new space, seismically upgrade that part, and you just dance around for the next couple of years until you're done, and then you would remove the, hopefully, the oldest and nastiest bit of the school, and you would end up with in the end, you're a pretty good, nice new building. And typically, it works best if you take up more space than you add. That's looked on favorably. Wellington and Nanaimo and a school in Burnaby and some others have done this. So the hybrid is really option 3. It's a pretty good option for our school district. And we have a full color photo coming soon.
Good marketing, I like that. Okay, so what you have up in front of you is a bit of a cost differential between the two hybrid solutions. So the full scope was 36.7, the life safety strategy was 28.8, and so we're looking at about a $7.9 million variance. Through discussions with the ministry and the school board, and it looks like we have about $420,000 in local capital that we can contribute towards this project. It's interesting how small 420,000 looks when you put it as 0.42 million. So we're actually talking about a price variance of about $7.5 million. And what you see up there in red is that the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, HVAC, the electrical, architectural, building insulation, are really the issues that are the difference between the hybrid and the full scope hybrid. We're still doing work on that 7.5 million. There's a good chance that it can come down in price. We've got some studies that are still outstanding, and once we receive them, hopefully the difference between the two strategies will be less. From the school district's point of view, the two solutions that fully meet the interests of the board is, of course, a replacement school, which is brand new. It gives you all that new space and new design. The other one is the hybrid full scope, because it allows us to ensure that all of the area is modernized. It all has good fresh air, good electrical, good air circulation, and likely would be a solution where we don't need to come back to the school for 30 years to come. Discussions are ongoing. It appears now that the ministry is supporting the option 5 or 4. I wish. And the direction that administration's received from the board is to pursue the option 5 full scope. So we are in ongoing discussions with the ministry for sure. Right now, the rest of the studies that are outstanding need to be received. And once that has been done and we can completely quantify the infrastructure deficiencies in the remaining area, at that time we'll be in a position to have some more discussions within the ministry bureaucracy to make sure they understand the scope of work. Up here is an indicative design. We had to put some lines on paper to be able to do costing. It may not be the final outcome. I'd be surprised if it was. What I'll point out is in this blue shaded area here, this is new construction, and that the additional area is about 2,545 square meters. And down here where you see the two-story section, which we call the science wing, and the current admin area, this is the lower level of the two-story, this would be demolished. And so where Ian was speaking to about using area for swing space, so what we would do is we would build this area first. When it's complete, we would move students into it, which would allow us then to come back and do a little bit of work in the area we're retaining. Once that work is done, the students would be moved in here, and then the third phase is we would then be able to demolish the area at the end of the project. So it's really designed to give you an indication of what the footprint might look like if we were to move forward with the hybrid strategy. So this would be hybrid for option 4 and option 5. That doesn't change. The only difference with option 4 is all the area that's in here, up including the art and the shops, that would also be upgraded for the areas that we want to see funding. So in total, we're looking at demolishing 3,174 square meters, adding 2,545. So the good news is it makes the school a little bit more efficient, smaller footprint, and at the same time providing the number of instructional spaces that we would require. Hopeful construction timeline. So we're hopeful that the project definition report will be done around June 2014.
Never going to happen either.
That's right. We thought we would try to build some humor into this presentation. We are also hopeful that we will have a capital project definition agreement completed by September 2014. Our target date for tendering is February 2015. So we need probably 6 to 8 months of time to develop and finalize the tender documents. We also need to have discussions with the ministry on what method of construction we're going to use. There's different options out there. So you can see here we would look to start the construction in March 2015, probably 2 or 3 months of just mobilizing and setting up and getting ready. We've got an 18-month construction of the new area, 10 months of upgrade of the seismic existing area, and about 4 months of demolition cleanup. So if this hopeful construction timeline happens, we would see project completion August 2017. So this is going to be a complex project for sure. When you have 1,100 or 1,200 students with 110 or something staff in around a construction project, it does get kind of complicated. The nice thing about it is the first 18 months is purely new construction at the back of the school. So that should be far less disruptive to the students. Final considerations of where we're at. There has not yet been a final solution, so option 4 or option 5, which are the two hybrids, appear to be the ones that are on the table. It may require some phasing of the construction, so if option 4 funding is available now, potentially the incremental work, the option 5, would need to happen as a separate funding request. There's ongoing discussions in the media right now around the government's change in policy on school districts making contributions towards capital projects. And the board needs to be having discussions with the ministry about what that cash contribution looks like. The negotiation of the capital project agreement, which is the formal thick agreement that provides us the cash, is going to get even more complicated because of the cash management piece. And then ultimately needs to come back to the board for your approval. So as we continue to work our way through this, we will ensure that the trustees and the parents at the school are kept current on where we're at.
So the most telling slide really is the slide that is about 3 slides in that shows all the options we like and all the options the ministry does not like. Is that correct?
That
so when I do the math,
yeah.
there are 5 options up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are not liked by the right. Not everybody likes any of those.
Correct.
All of them together.
Yes.
There is no 6th option? Not really, eh?
Well, we actually talked about taking busloads of kids down to the
That's true, to Victoria, yeah. It doesn't start well when the 2 and the 5 are not supported.
And we don't
We're
like
not
them.
interested, no.
In summary, I guess it's fair to say that what we're trying to do is to get a decent school out of this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're trying. And the presentation by the Secretary Treasurer made the whole process seem fairly simple and logical and rational. It's nothing like that at all, in fact. Okay. Any other trustee comments? No? No?
I was just wondering if we could get a little updated information about our secondary enrollment numbers. We've talked about it before, but just don't know. Where are they going to know? Where are they going to go?
I can provide that at the next meeting. I have not heard you ask for those before. I'll bring them to the next meeting. Yep. Yep, I can do that. And projection?
Okay. Over to the page 15 of the agenda, then, the policy manual. This is another entertaining activity that the Secretary Treasurer has been involved in. We have a very old and cumbersome policy manual, and this is an attempt to tidy it up. There are 2 motions in front of you. I beg your pardon, notices of motion.
Yes.
The first one is that we would create a new document called Administrative Procedures, and it would be listed as such on the website. And that would be a whole group of documents that are at the moment in our policy manual. They would be reclassified. So that's the first one. You have in your information package all of these things listed. The reason for the notice of motion, of course, is that this is very tedious work to get through, and I suppose that trustees have not yet had a chance to read all these policies. I have.
Several times.
Several times, yeah.
For a while. Got a T-shirt
Yeah.
too.
Well, the weekend that you folks had enjoyed the Vista conference here, I spent reading policies.
Oh, here.
So what I would like to do is have someone, if they would, move the first notice of motion regarding administrative procedure.
It's just a notice of motion.
Oh, you don't need to move it? Okay,
You will next time.
Then it's for information you will see.
Tom wants to
But I
say
do
something.
have in light of the fact that our May meeting is really budget focused.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping at agenda setting that could be put into consideration about perhaps this could come to a June meeting.
Yeah, point taken. Thank you. But
One
you-
other point here is that if you feel that taking an hour to brief on some of this, I mean, this is fairly lengthy, pardon the expression, dull stuff to read through. I mean, there's some, I know, but we may need an hour just to go through it. And so you need to set some time aside, and maybe an hour before
Education committee.
our in-camera, or something along that line, or an education committee, whatever works. But I would suggest, rather than us just simply trying to read through this, and we're not going to get the scope of it, perhaps a presentation might be in order.
We do have in the school district a thing called homework, and so I'm hoping that my
You've
colleagues
been
will take these policies as our homework.
We also have Cole's notes. So we'll
Yeah,
try.
okay, we'll try to do Cole's notes for you.
Thank you.
But let me assure you that the superintendent has gone through these policies, and the Secretary Treasurer has gone through them, and I have gone through them. We do believe they are at least grammatically correct. They may not represent the wishes of the
Nobody's
board.
questioning that.
I agree with the idea, some kind of a working
focus
session.
group.
Yeah, something around it. And
Okay.
it's not so much relating to the shift of the things that are identified in admin, but it's something about the ones that remain as the board policy, where I feel there are some overarching policy statements that may be missing that group some of the ones that are then in admin. And then in some cases, there's an admin one that's been shifted, and we should keep it in the board, and we should shift the procedures related to it. But the ones that it really stands out is that we're leaving as a board policy sexual orientation and gender identity. And part of that is really about how are we going to implement the policy that we agreed on and provide educational support and accounting and stuff. And I could think, where are the ones about our racism and inclusion and sexual
Orientation.
gender? No, not about discriminating against girls in our schools. Which those ones we still have other types of issues, and they're in here somewhere. I know I've read them in the past. They've been updated for a long time. And so it's more like a statement that's missing is about our general inclusiveness and support for that. And then you have the regulations of the different types. So I feel like this piece could use some more work in the organization of how these support that. That's my sense. And you're right, I can do more homework on it myself and bring it in. But if it was a working group that I was bringing into, it might go somewhere more exciting than the last minute submission.
So I take that to be the wish of the board. You'd like to have a working session to go over these policies as a group?
I think it's prudent.
Yes. Okay.
I'll let you guys have it.
We'll arrange that. Okay. The final item is the one we added on the land dedication ceremony that trustees Kate and Corda attended.
Jonna and Sheila. She did the happy dance today. The reason I wanted to mention it, because this would have happened today, where our school district donated 5.53 hectares of property behind Vanier School for the city court as a parkland, without the hard work of two gentlemen sitting at this table here. Russell and Ian, you've done an incredible job. And without your hard work, I don't think we'd have this wonderful parkland that would be there, part of the city of Courtenay, for our students and the future generations to enjoy. And today it was great walking through the woods. The sun came out, the birds were out, and it was a really wonderful setting and wonderful. And I'd like to thank you both. That was a wonderful. That was a wonderful way to highlight what an environmentally conscious district we are, and working with the community. We listened to what the community wanted, and therefore we have a wonderful park as a result. And thank you again for all the hard work that you've done. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
And that was it.
I just wanted to comment that I knew we were doing good. I had no question about that. But I didn't get the magnitude, the scope of it until I saw the emotion on the fellows there from the Land Conservancy Society. They were very obviously emotional about this, so appreciative. And that's when I think it actually really sunk in that you know, what we were doing. And it was an amazing day.
So even the board is capable of doing good things from time to time. There you go.
My point is that almost 7 years ago, when the Christian School Society came to us and wanted to buy the property, and then going to the city of Courtenay to get it rezoned, and the loud hail that came back. We have evolved over this 7 years, and we have actually done something that makes sense. And today was a good day for the school district, and it was also a good day for the city of Courtenay. But I think, in all, it was a good day for the Comox Valley, because they now have a wonderful park that I know the city of Courtenay will work hard at putting together in the next year or so.
Thank you.
I think that point about we also have this opportunity now for the partnerships with those groups as educators to support our kids. And the park itself as a learning space, it's entirely in line with all the rest, that the good relationship that is built that's going to help our students in their learning, is as opposed to being at war for looking at it just as a property and as an asset around property, rather than an asset as a place for learning and a place for relationships. It's a huge shift, and I too really appreciate Russell you for doing that and appreciate all of us. Group hug here, you guys. It's Earth Day. Really good.
Okay, thank you. Time for public questions. Questions, comments? The press gets first go if they wish. And others? No? Okay, motion to adjourn?
Second.